Let's take a deep dive on my version of Jeskai Control. What's going on, fellow tryhards? It's Tom with Tryhard Gaming, bringing you back a brand new deck profile. So today we're going to go over what my most common list that I've been taking to Modern Nights, which would be Jeskai Control. This deck is probably by far, it can be one of the most annoying decks. It is very grindy. This deck, it has a lot of counter spells and a lot of ways to just hiccup your game plan of your opponent. So, one of the main things that I do kind of want to go over is this list is a little different. I know some people only run 3 Flage and a few less of certain, or a few more counter spells on the sideboard. Sideboard is going to look a little different whenever we go through it. I don't run as many subtleties as some people do. I've cut back on that card a little bit because in testing and in playing locals, it just doesn't seem like it has enough punch to it sometimes. But without further ado, let's go ahead and go over the land base. I'm running 23 lands in this. I have the 3 basics, 1 of each. I've thought about, during the time being, I've thought about switching these to maybe adding one more island or one more plains in this, for the pure fact of Blood Moon is a thing in this format right now with Boros Energy. So this helps. Having double white gets you to better Wrath of the Skies. Having double blue gets you to counter spells and other plays like that. But I don't think you'll have that issue because you do have some free counter spells in this deck. So and then of course your one-ofs, the Monumental Hinge. This card has bailed me out several times. Just being able to dig for 5 with that 4 ability that lets you look at the top 5 and reveal a historic card, artifacts, legendary sagas. So able to, if I find a Flage, that's mainly what I'm digging for, is I'm trying to find my win con. Flage is legit the win con in this deck. Of course, you have to have your Arena of Glory to give your Flage haste whenever you escape it. And then Manamo, School at Water's Edge, just to untap the One Ring that you're running in this deck. I don't know, some of you are just like, ugh, the One Ring. Yeah, I know a lot of people are tired of it. I think it's not too bad. I think what they should do with it is limit it to 1. That would be very fitting. A limit to 1 on the One Ring. Or, just outright hit it. Either one, I don't care. I just played the game right now. So, I just got back into Magic a little bit ago, and I'm still thoroughly enjoying it. So, other lands, we have 1 Mystic Gate, the one that lets you pay a blue or a white to get double white, double blue, or a white and a blue. 1 Steam Vent, 1 Sacred Foundry, and 2 Hollowed Fountains for your shocks. And then you have your Surveillance, which again I'm running 1 of each, which is Thundering Falls, Meticulous Archive, and Elegant Parlor. All of them are really good. This Surveil cycle is just amazing, especially in Modern. Just being able to pitch a card in the graveyard, especially if you're not even just for this deck. If you're playing Goryo's Vengeance, I know being able to send an Atraxa or an Olamog or anything, any big creature to the graveyard, just kind of sets up your win con, and then you're just able to set up, if you have Goryo's in hand already, you can just set it up and ephemerate that creature, especially if it's an Atraxa. So just being able to pitch one in the grave is awesome. Then you have your fetch lands. I'm running 2 Arid Mesa. I thought about bumping this up, but right now I'm just running 2. I'm running 3 Scalding Torn, which is the red-blue, and then 4 Flooded Strand. I think those are probably the best out of all of them. I like Scalding Torn and Arid Mesa, but I think Flooded Strand gets you to a lot more. This can get you to both, pretty much anything else you need. So that is the land base. Again, I think it said 23 lands. This is the spell medley that we're running. I'm running 1 Consigned to Memory in the main. Thought about bumping this up to more. People were really not on this at my locals for a while. So not just that, and there was a few When I first picked this card back up, whenever I started opening up Modern Horizons 3, I was like, this card is like, it's Stifle in a way. and it's like this card's really, really good. Just being able to counter a triggered ability or a colorless spell, and then you're able to replicate it. That is insane. This card's really strong for a 1-drop, and you can just keep pumping into it. So, good start to the instance. 4 counter spells. Of course, we're playing blue. You gotta run 4. This is the original no card, and I think it is, again, probably one of the most basic counter spells in the game. Counter target spell. Very, very strong. Two of these that have been throwing people off, because this deck does run some energy stuff. Aether Spikes. Aether Spike, for those who don't know, is one of those like, Mana Leak style cards, just with energy. So you're able to choose a target spell, you get 2 energy, pay any amount of energy that counter that spell unless they pay 1 for each energy you pay into it. So you just target the spell and pay the energy in, and if they don't have the mana, what I usually do is I just get it 1 higher than the open mana if I have a bunch of stored up energy, and just do it that way. And then of course your free counter spell, which is your Force of Negation. Just exile a blue card from your hand and free cast this, as long as it's not your turn. If it is your turn, you do have to pay that 3 mana cost, but most of the time you're not going to be using this during your turn. This card is insane. Any sort of free counter spell, this Force of Will, you know, any of those are going to be insane in a modern format. So I believe that is probably one of the, I think you save this for like, especially matchups for like Goryo's Vengeance, you save it for that. You save it for Blood Moon. Like I mentioned earlier, if they have, if you don't get double blue up by your second turn and you have this and you're sitting on it, you're playing against Boros Energy and they have Blood Moon turn 3, this card is just, it's the one-stop shop for what you need to not have all your lands be mountains. So, next ones we have is these are the cantrips. I know I mentioned in my last, I was calling them the battle tricks cantrips, and I shouldn't have been. But this is probably one of my favorite ones. The draw card, gain 2 energy. Tune the narrative. I'm running 3 of it. Some people run more, but with where you're running the 1 ring, it makes life a little bit easier to draw cards. And being able to, you know, draw a card and get 2 energy to throw into your other spells can be very, very helpful. And of course, another really strong one is your 4 Galvanic Discharges. This is just your spot removal. Very quick. If you have a red on turn 1 and you're going second, you don't have a turn 1 play. Just being able to pop something for 2, being able to kill an Ocelot Pride or a Ragavan and keep the other energy and just save a lot of this stuff stored up, and then pay that into a Wrath of the Skies or a Aether Spike. It just makes it really important to have that. So, and plus, compared to Arena, this card gets 3 energy, so that makes it quite literally a Creature Lightning Bolt, which makes it even better. And then the one board wipe I'm running in the main, the Supreme Verdict, which shout out to Michael if you're watching for trading this over to me. I love this artwork. Reminds me of like it's the Ikoria Kaiju style things with like a Tali and all those. I love it. It's awesome. Then I run 1 Lorien Revealed for the island cycling, or the draw 3. I've rarely used it to draw 3, because again, there's so much draw power in the deck already. You're just, I'm usually just grabbing a Surveil land or something that I can use off the island cycling. If I run low on lands, if I see this and if I see 2 lands in this, I'm definitely just going to keep the 2-lander, and I have a bunch of spells that I need. Also, this is a very easy pitch off for your Force of Negation if you open it. Then you have your enchantments, which is your 2 dress down. This can be really strong. Not in more ways than one, to kind of shut off your opponent's big monsters. For example, being able to shut off a lot of the Goryo targets. Being able to shut off Atraxa, being able to shut off Ulamog is very, very important. And that draw card is really, really helpful as well. Thought about running more of these in the sideboard, but I think 2 is the optimal number for me because I'm already running a lot of draw power. Maybe maybe I know there's a Jeskai dress down build, which is kind of heavily rotates around this card more so. This card you can use aggressively as well, being able to draw a card. You can do this during your turn. So whenever you cast Flays, if you have 2 more open mana, you're able to use Dress Down and let it hit the field. You don't get your Lightning Helix effect. However, you do get a 6/6 Flage on the field, and it makes the escape trigger it loses the escape trigger at the time, if I'm not mistaken. So this card can be used aggressively as well. And then we have your creatures. Of course, I'm running 4 Flages. Yes, I know, one is different. I have the mix match, but I do run 4 Flage. This card is the win con powerhouse of the deck, just to kind of grind out your opponent. 3-drop Lightning Helix, pretty much it just sacks itself if it's not escaped. But if it is escaped, which you pay 2 red and 2 white, exile 5 other cards, you get the Lightning Helix and a 6/6 body. And potentially you can have this get haste if you have Arena of Glory on the field. Because whenever this hits the field and you use the 2, if you exert the Arena of Glory, you can use the 2 red and for the full cost of that, and exile the 5, and this gets haste, so you get the 6/6 haste along with the Lightning Helix, and this will trigger twice because it is an ATB and a attack trigger, so really strong. Probably one of the best red-white cards that have been printed in a very, very long time. Off to the Elemental Incarnations. I run 1 Solitude in this deck, and I run 3 Subtleties. I've thought about cutting this down a little bit more, the Elemental Incarnations. Right now, I'm enjoying Solitude a little bit more, just because it is a exile. That gets a lot of the big threats going on. But Solitude very rarely comes up because Goryo's, it might not be just my locals, but in the Goryo's matchup, and I talk about this matchup a lot because one of my buddies plays this deck. This card does nothing in the Goryo's matchup besides if they run the Falaji card, it just does nothing. The Archaeologist or whatever it's called, that's about the only value you're going to get out of it to bounce. Other than that, it's not being cast, and the card for Subtlety has to be cast for you to be able to use its effect. So it's not exactly where I would like it to be. I'll probably bump this down to 2 and maybe put 1 on the side, maybe put 2 on the side. But as of right now, I think 3/1 would be good, and I might end up bumping this out for a Wrath of the Skies, and just to have a little bit more control of the board. Planeswalkers, I have run, so unlike most other builds, I run 1 Narset, Parter of the Veils in the main. There's a lot of decks that like to draw a lot of cards. A lot of decks still out there running the One Ring. This locks them into only being able to draw a single card per turn. So being able to do that, and you being able to look at the top 4 and just kind of sift through more and more of your deck, just makes it a little bit better. And of course, your control Planeswalker. You got your Bird Teferi, Time Raveler, and each opponent can't cast spells unless, well, they can only cast them at sorcery speed. That's why this card is so crazy. And then you can do the +1, cast the sorcerers that had flash, and then the -3 to bounce an artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand and draw a card. So one of the main things that I've done with this card is I've had the One Ring up to 3 or 4 counters, tap the One Ring, draw 3 or 4, play this, bounce the One Ring back to my hand, play the One Ring again, tap the One Ring, draw another card, get the protection, all that, and just be able to keep drawing cards on top of that. So you're drawing like a whole new hand every single turn with that loop. And then, of course, it is a One Ring deck. It has to play the One Rings to get to where it needs to be. I think you have to run 4 in this version. I'm sure there are other variants that don't run the One Ring. I do feel like this card will get hit eventually. This card, if it doesn't, I would be very surprised, because it having a recent meta showing of over 50% or right at 50% in most decks is mildly terrifying. So, because it's not just your Boros decks or your Jeskai decks running this. Your Mono Black Necro is still running this. Just a lot of decks any deck that can run this and abuse the draw power of this will. So, this card is extremely potent and really good overall. And I think a lot of people who play competitive Magic know that already. And then, last but not least, we have the sideboard. So, of course, I have the energy deck, or the energy card here. I run 3 of these white creatures. I run the other Solitude, just in case I need another exile removal. 2 Drannith Magistrates, just to keep opponents off of their flash, especially if I'm playing Boros aggro. This prevents them from casting flash from their graveyard, but where it says your opponents, you're able to cast yours still. 2 Wrath of the Skies. I'll probably end up putting one in the main, or maybe even 2 in the main, putting these 2. I need to do a little bit more testing, but having a board sweeper effect, especially in a heavy aggro format, is very, very strong. Obsidian Charmaw, really, really strong against your Eldrazi matchups. There's a Sowing Microspawn, it's not the Sowing Microspawn build, it's the one, pretty much all of them run that. It's the one that lets it's land destruction, which is heavily based around the Sowing Microspawn. But being able to pop a lot of the lands that your opponent control, especially if it's the Eldrazi Temple or Ugin's Labyrinth, this is a very good hit, or a very good card to use against Ugin's Labyrinth, just to be able to keep a card in exile, which can backfire sometimes depending on what you do, but I think this card's really strong against that matchup. And one more Consign to Memory, I might move that over to the main 2, I don't know. Running out of room and space for this deck. The other 2 Narsets, just in case I run into more and more draw power decks. I run 3 Vexing Baubles in this list because this keeps energy off the Amped Raptors because they can't free cast stuff while this is on the field. This also gives you another draw if you see. It's more draw power for you if you're trying to dig for stuff you need as well. Just keep your opponent off other stuff. And this also kind of plays around the scam decks that cast cards pretty heavily. And then the last 2 cards, of course, is your 2 Surgical Extractions. I'm working on a mono black list right now that runs at least 2 of these in the main, because again, with Boros aggro being a thing, being able to surgical a Flash and look through your opponent's hand and deck and just being able to pull stuff out is really strong, or being able to pull that one aggressive card that may be holding you down. This can also hit sideboard cards, which again is amazing. Being able to hit the cards that's holding you off the game and being able to prevent your opponent from playing, or being able to get information. That is one thing that I've learned from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And going over to Magic, is information is king. And being able to get a lot of information, especially while going through your opponent's deck with this card, and being able to go through their hand as well, it is very, very strong, and I think this card goes unnoticed sometimes. So, that is it for the Jeskai Control list, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed. This is something that, again, that I'm going to be tweaking with a little bit. Probably going to be doing a little bit more with some of the modern decks. But if you get the chance, don't forget to go to your local game stores, play a few games, meet up with people. Because so far, some of the people that I've gotten to meet through Modern and through Standard have been awesome. Always feel free to reach out to your local people and play some games with them, even if you're playing casually. But guys, that'll be it for the video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. See you, tryhards.